Call Her Daddy host Alex Cooper just sat down to interview Charlize Theron, and the title of this interview is Charlize Theron, I Don't Need a Man. So that should tell you everything you need to know about this already. So they say Charlize discusses her current approach to dating, being a single mom, and why marriage isn't necessarily for her. She also opens up about her therapy journey, navigating power imbalances in Hollywood, and finding healing.
Can I be honest? That's literally every topic in the world that I hate.
So the entire thing, of course, because it's Call Her Daddy, is about meaningless hookups,
Therapy,
and
power imbalances.
Embracing your authentic self and going on a journey, and everything is a journey. There were some more serious parts, but the kind of headline that's going to get churned out from an episode like this is about Charlize Theron's hookup with a man who was, I believe, less than half her age, a 26-year-old, and she bragged about this. Again, this is just feminists LARPing as the worst type of man and thinking that it's empowering.
That was my actual post about it. I said, feminism has long been critical of men that act irresponsibly, and women have fought for decades to be able to act just like men. Ironically, the men they've chosen to be like are the ones that have been the most roundly criticized, and in my opinion, should be criticized by everyone. Somebody said to me, they said, "So you think one night stands are bad?" And I said, I don't really think one way or the other. I think that bragging about it is cringe, which is worse than bad.
Also, warning you, Charlize Theron just throws an F-bomb in between every sentence in this interview.
She's an 18-year-old who just moved out and is using cuss words.
Thinks it's super edgy to drop the F-bomb. Yeah. And I think they reported in a 3-hour-long interview, Charlize said the F word over 150 times. So this is just something that she does.
So edgy. Bro.
Warning you ahead of time, but here it is.
With women, it's always like, something must be wrong with her. She can't keep a man. She must be a real bitch. What a cunt. I love that I don't have to run every fucking thing by a guy. I'm having the kind of sex I never had in my 20s or in my 30s. We should be the ones that are like, fuck you. Like, I'm gonna have an orgasm. But I did just recently fuck a 26-year-old, and it was really fucking amazing. There's a casting for this movie, and you'll have to go on Saturday night, and they gave me the address, and it was this director's house. The little voice inside me definitely said, this isn't right. I remember being furious with myself because I couldn't believe how I had let myself down. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are you? Where the fuck? Why the fuck would you allow that? Until you are in this fucking environment, don't tell me how you're gonna behave.
Literally every word, basically, is the F word. It's just so try hard.
If the director had been a 26-year-old, it would have been fine.
49-year-old Charlize Theron went into the story of her one-night stand with a 26-year-old man, saying, I've probably had 3 one-night stands in my entire life, but I did recently F a 26-year-old, and it was really effing amazing, and I've never done that. And I was like, oh, this is great. Okay. I'm having the kind of sex I never had in my 20s or in my 30s, and this is how she's reclaiming her, I don't know, sexual freedom or some bullshit like that.
Maybe that's the problem, is that everything has to be elevated to some deep, meaningful experience with everything. Sometimes bad behavior. Look, if she's like, look, I just want to act bad, but I know it's bad. I'm okay with that. It's when you have to start turning it into some type of dissertation as to why it's some type of feminist power statement that, it doesn't ring as true. Well, I don't think it rings as true to anybody.
That clip, it explains the tone of every one of these podcast episodes, and it gives women everything that they want. The oversharing graphic sexual details, also mixed with trauma dumping and talking about therapy and healing and taking, prescription drugs. It's all wrapped up into one with an emotional soundtrack to match how you're supposed to feel at the moment.
Well, her editors are doing their job.
So, she was also talking about her childhood trauma, and I actually didn't know that her dad died when she was a 15-year-old. She had an alcoholic dad who came home armed with a gun and threatening her and her mom, and what resulted was her mom had to shoot him and killed him that way, and she witnessed it. But again, this is like, it's so bizarre to mix that type of sharing with talking about like my one night stand and my orgasms in the same episode. Like, that just seems really emotionally fractured.
Yeah.
Which is almost the point.
It'll never ring true to most people because anybody with half a brain that's an adult understands that it's not difficult for women to have sex if they want to have sex. So having a one-night stand with a 26-year-old is in no way an accomplishment. Unless you want to say the accomplishment was that you got to have an orgasm and that every other time you haven't, in which case, again, skills issue with the people you're picking in your life. But holy crap.
Right.
Like, there's just like, and even in the irony is that the idea is supposed to be that they believe that guys talk like this about it because it actually is supposed to be an accomplishment when a guy supposedly picks up a woman. But the thing is guys don't talk like that. They definitely don't talk like that on podcasts.
Well, unless that's like a pickup artist, right? And that's the weird thing. It's like all of these,
the male actors are not doing this.
Right. Like Leonardo DiCaprio,
yeah.
Even though his dating life gets a lot of attention, he never talks about it.
Yeah.
He certainly would never go on a podcast and talk about his one night stands with like, you know, models in their 20s. He just would have more of a sense of decorum about that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because with the actresses, all sense of shame, all sense of decorum and dignity has been completely thrown out of the window. And it's kind of pathetic to tell stories like this about your sexual conquests for anyone, but especially for a woman, because it takes zero effort to hop into bed with someone. If you're a woman, it would literally, you could go on a dating app and find someone to hook up with in 2 seconds. Everyone knows that it's valueless. And she just sounds like some sort of manosphere influencer. Yeah. In a woman's body.
Yeah, she does in a lot of ways. And
because they see, like, they think that men live enviable lives. Or at least they believe that the shittiest, most disgusting, herpes-ridden men live enviable lives, and they want to LARP as that.
She watches lots of Dan Bilzerian and...
Right? Like, is she just watching too many, like, Andrew Tate
That's
clips?
the funnier version of this is that she's really into Andrew Tate.
Right?
She won't
like
tell anyone, but like her whole feed is like old Hustler University clips.
Yeah. And you know, it wouldn't be an interview with a Hollywood actress if they didn't talk about sexual harassment in Hollywood. And this was another story that she shared about a director on a movie making a sexual pass at her during an audition. I wanted to show this second clip about it.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
Explain what happened when you got there.
I didn't know what an audition or what the process really, what that looked like. An agency that I was working at as a model, I said, listen, I'm interested, so naively, didn't know how you went about being an actor. I said, if you hear of any auditions, I'd like to go. And they said, oh, we think there's a casting for this movie and you have to go on Saturday night. And they gave me the address and it was this director's house. The little voice inside me definitely said, this isn't right. But then the other voice in me says, well, I don't know. Maybe it is right. And it wasn't right.
And as women, we're constantly in positions where we want to be like, no, I'm overreacting. Like, there's no way I'm going to get there and it's going to be weird. There's no way.
And
like,
even when it is weird, you're talking yourself out of this isn't weird. Like, no, I'm taking this the wrong way. It's like we can only share these experiences and we can talk about them enough so that hopefully it becomes normalized, that we hear it enough where women can just go like, okay, I've heard about this time. I think that we need to tell these stories so that we can understand that we're not alone. Like, that's the thing, right? And it's hard to tell them in a world where people don't want to fucking believe you. And when it starts to sound repetitious and it's like, oh, it's the same story again. It's like, yeah, but guess what? We're all made of the same fucking we're human beings. And until you are in this fucking environment, don't tell me how you're going to behave, because I will not let a motherfucker or fuck with me any day of the week. But when somebody catches you off guard like that, within seconds, somebody is telling you your value and they're telling you you're not really that valuable. Because guess what? I was never going to get a part that night. And I knew that as soon as I left. Like when I was driving up Laurel Canyon, I knew I wasn't there because I had some value that I was going to bring to this man's movie. I was there for one thing. I was only valued for one thing. That was it.
And it's effing disgusting.
Well, I mean, there's another way that this could go. There's somebody else that did this. It was Aaron Taylor Johnson's wife.
True.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, at just like 18 years old, was invited to a director's house to audition for a role. And they got married and have multiple children now. So, you know.
Sometimes the casting couch is inside the director's house. But yeah, she said...
but I mean, they didn't get together till after the movie finished, from what I've been told.
Her agency told her to go to this director's house on a Saturday night, which she did find weird. He allegedly answered the door in his pajamas and then proceeded to put his hand on her knee, which is when she immediately got up and left.
She did the right thing.
Yes.
She got up and left. That was the right thing to do. She didn't stay there. She didn't naively wait for the situation to change or allow herself to be led around. That is absolutely the right thing to do, and good for her on that. The question people are asking now, though, in the comment section is, why aren't you naming this director so that we can let the other actresses know that driving up Laurel Canyon for a midnight audition for a movie is probably not going to go your way?
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope that they'd have the common sense to realize that that's not a work meeting with the context. But apparently, Charlize Theron herself didn't know that at the time. She did have the correct response by getting up and leaving and not staying around on the hopes of getting the role, or, God forbid, like literally having transactional sex with the male director in order to get the role. However, I would bet most of the women that had sex with Harvey Weinstein when he was at his peak in Hollywood knew exactly what they were getting into. Yep. They knew exactly the terms of that interaction. They knew what they were giving up, and they knew what they were getting back in exchange.
Yeah. In the comments, they're talking about the fact that Aaron Taylor Johnson is, much younger than his wife. I love how far society.
Creepy.
I love how far society has fallen. Is that Jarrett in the chat says, at least he's in a nuclear family. Yeah, I mean, he does have that going for him.
Sure. I mean, it just, the Aaron Taylor Johnson marriage gives me Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron vibes. It's not the same thing, I know, because he was 18 at the time, but still. Yeah. Creepy. And people are creeped out by it for a good reason.
That was the first thing I thought of. I said, why isn't... To be fair, some people did. I was like, why isn't anybody bringing up the fact that he went to her house for I guess it's different somehow?
Well, I guess...
Okay, if you want to be honest about the differences between men and women, it is different, because if he wants to leave, she's not going to be able to stop him. Okay, like she would not physically be able to restrain him.
Right.
So it is different, but that doesn't make the practice any less sus.
Yes. This reminds me of the clip of Alex Cooper talking about how she contracted HPV that we talked about last year. She said when she walked into this random guy's apartment that she found on a dating app, she immediately felt like the vibes were off. She immediately was disinterested in hooking up with him or spending an additional night with him. Yeah. But she said, I think all of you as women will understand my perspective on this. We've all been there, right, ladies? Where you just want to be a people pleaser and you just want to put a smile on your face and, let it happen even though you're uncomfortable. And there were tons of women in the comments saying they had gone through exactly the same situation and they naturally don't want to cause a fuss over something. They feel like they're overreacting, whatever. Yeah. And my interpretation of that is, okay, you can explain the Me Too movement in two ways and only two ways. One is self-interested women who are knowingly lying about things that didn't happen to them. And two, women like Alex Cooper who got into situations that made them uncomfortable but never expressed that they were uncomfortable, and the man was none the wiser.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I mean, that kind of outlines kind of the gray area of where a lot of this goes for people. Is that's a very, very difficult story to tell because it doesn't have clear heroes and villains, and the hero and villain will largely be dependent on like your worldview. Like how you feel, who's responsible for whose behavior in each interaction, because it's so up for interpretation.
But overall, my impression from watching the clips of this interview, it seems like Charlize Theron is representative of a larger problem in women in general, not just celebrities.
Like me, the inability to talk without saying the F word.
There is this strange, I would call it spiritual transgenderism going around, where you will take the worst caricatured aspects and tropes of the opposite sex and adopt them into your personality artificially because you think that there's some kind of benefit you can reap from it, or you think that it will make you seem more intimidating and powerful. Yeah. But no, it actually just comes off like you're a 14-year-old boy who says fuck a lot. And, you know, we all know that that's a put on. And it just comes off as super try hard and pathetic. And no one finds it impressive that you can hop into bed with someone half your age. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.